Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Phill Anderson, Global HR Director at Bryce, and I'm joined by Gemma Bignell, our Global Corporate Services Director. And today we're going to talk about what really matters when it comes to expanding in the UK, from setting up your entity to hiring your first employees to making sure everything stays compliant as you grow. Now, this session is going to be designed to give you a clear picture, not just the legal side, but the practical reality of building and running a UK team successfully. So just give you a bit of background before we start. So at Bryce, we help companies all around the globe, across the Americas, EMEA, and APAC. So we've seen every version of international growth, the good, the bad, and the painful. So my focus is people, how to hire, manage, and stay compliant with the UK employment law. And Gemma looks after the structure, so company setup, governance, and tax. And between us, we're going to walk you through how to enter the UK market smoothly, compliantly, but also strategically as well, and avoiding those traps that can catch most new entrants out as they go through that journey. So what's Briar's goal at the end of the day? So at Briar's, our goal is really simple. It's to be the number one provider of international expansion services. It's our North Star, so to speak, and it drives everything we do. And for over 30 years, we've supported companies all around the world, building our reputation on three very specific things: exceptional people, a complete range of services, and global reach. So what makes us different is that we're not just delivering a service, we act as an extension to your leadership teams, your operational teams, helping you expand confidently while staying compliant and in complete control. Next slide, please. So who are we? We're not just a tech-only platform or a transactional provider. We're your strategic partner for expansion. So someone who really understands your business, your goals, and how to make growth sustainable. And we tailor our approach to fit your ways of working. So it's not the other way around. And that means smarter processes, better management information, and tech that genuinely supports your team. And we're proud of our culture too. We're really fanatical about client experience, and we protect that culture fiercely. And we're always looking for better, smarter ways to serve all of our global clients. And those are our non-negotiables. They're what makes Briars different. Next slide, Henry, please. So I'm just walking you through our global outsourcing platform. So this is what it looks like when you put it all together, the Briars Global Outsourcing Platform. Think of it as your single joined up hub for everything that keeps your international operations, or UK operations in this instance, running really smoothly. So that's HR, payroll, accountancy, tax, compliance, immigration, payments, all in one place managed by one team. So when companies expand globally and move into the UK, they often end up with 5 or 6 different providers, one doing payroll, one doing accounts, another doing HR, and sometimes someone else doing compliance as well. And that fragmentation allows for slowdown. So slows everything down and creates risk. And our platform pulls all of that together, one process, one point of contact, and one team that already knows your business. It's fully integrated across 4 main pillars, as you can see from the diagram in front of you on the screen now. So corporate services, company setup, governance, tax, and ongoing compliance. HR and payroll, so my bag, so hiring, contracts, onboarding, accounts, compliant payroll anywhere you operate, including the UK. Finance and treasury, so that's global payments, banking, FX management. And then we've got the compliance and mobility piece, which is your typical immigration, data protection, and employment law alignment. And we combine all that with great tech and great people. So the tech automates the admin, and our specialists handle the complexity. And that means you get accurate data, faster decisions, and comfort knowing that everything's compliant wherever you operate, including the UK. And the real benefit is just visibility. You can see costs, you can see headcount, compliance status across all your countries in real time. So think of it, it's not just outsourcing, it's a strategic partner. And that's typically what Bryce is, that strategic partner to you and your business, designed specifically to help you scale globally without losing control locally. So building the UK team. So the UK is a brilliant market for talent and growth, but it also comes with its own quirks compared to other countries. So getting this right from day one is really crucial because it sets the tone for how your business will operate from day one. So let's look at what makes the UK both attractive and complex. So the UK is one of the world's strongest, most stable economies, ranked fifth globally and worth over £3.4 trillion. And it's a global hub that connects the US to Asia. And in one working day, it has access to over 70 international trade deals. So the infrastructure here is world class, the legal system's trusted, and the talent pool is excellent. Now, around 60% of adults in the UK have higher education qualifications, which is awesome, which is great. So that means it's a great place for businesses to do business in. But the UK isn't simple at all. It's a highly regulated market, and there's a lot of structure around employment, around tax, and around data protection. So things like GDPR are strictly enforced. So while it's on one hand a great place to grow, it's also one that rewards doing things properly from the start. Next slide, Homer, please. So let's talk through some of the specific differences between the UK and other countries across the globe. So if you've hired internationally before, which probably many of you have, the UK will feel quite different. So here employees have strong legal protection. You can't just terminate employees overnight as you can in some other countries. You have to follow a really fair and well-documented process. And we've also got things like statutory benefits as well, so paid annual leave, so PTO in different countries. We've got sick pay, we've got parental leave, and pensions are all legally required. And these aren't just perks that help you find great people on board them and keep them happy. They're actually entrenched in law as well. And payroll is typically monthly, so not bi-weekly as it is in the States in most cases, and notice periods are much, much longer. Usually 1 to 3 months is the typical sort of benchmark these days when we're talking to employers. And that gives more stability to employers, but it also means that things take a lot longer to move on. And compare that to the US or Singapore, where employment is far more flexible, shorter notice, fewer legal protections, benefits, which is quite peculiar, are often discretionary. Whereas in the UK, it's definitely more structured, it's more consistent, which creates predictability, which is great for us, but it also means you need to plan appropriately and plan for those sorts of benefits as well. Next slide, please, Henry. So let's talk about, while you're here, how do you hire people in the UK? So once you've decided to build your UK team, you've got three main options in the main. So option one, we'll start with, is set up your own company. That gives you full control and solid local presence and compliance. So you'll need to register with something we call Companies House. You'll have to set up your PAYE and your VAT and get insurance in place. It's the best long-term route if you're planning to grow, but it does take time to set up. New option two, EOR, Employer of Record. Some of you may have heard of this before, some of you may not. And for those who have not, I'll just walk you through this quickly. This is a quick and compliant route. So you can hire people straight away without creating a UK entity, which is great. Big fat green tick for some people who don't want to commit straight up. And it's really great for early stage hires or testing the market to see if it works and see if you can handle the employment and payroll compliance. Option three, contractors. So we see a little bit of this, but not as much as we used to in recent years. It's fast, it's flexible. But in the UK, there's rules called IR35, which are really, really strict. And if someone's working, for example, like an employee in the UK, and the HMRC can reclassify them, you'll be liable for any tax and penalties. So worker classification is really important to get right in the UK, and Bryce can help you do that. But again, that's option three. So we've got, so far, set up your own company, employer of record, which is EOR, and then contractors. So those are the three main options. So it depends on which stage of growth you're at, to be honest. So it depends on that. It depends on your budget. Depends on your timeline as well. And at Bryce, we can help you. We've helped other businesses decide which route makes more sense, depending on how quickly they want to move or what part of the journey of growth they're on. And often starting with the EOR model and then transitioning to a full UK entity is the most sensible option. But we've seen a mix of the three over recent weeks, months, and over the years as well. Next slide, please. So let's just talk through some of the common pitfalls for international firms looking to expand in the UK. And the first one is just assuming global law applies. And I suppose this applies regardless of which country you're trying to sort of consider and look into growing into. Global law typically doesn't apply, especially in the UK. So every country has its own employment and tax rules, as you can imagine. And the UK is particularly detailed. So global templates just don't work here. That's the first one. The second point is misclassifying workers, which I've just touched on slightly when we're talking around contractors. IR35 is one of the most common pain points we deal with when we're advising and speaking with international clients who are looking to expand into the UK. And just to reaffirm my point from earlier, if the HMRC decides your contractors are actually employees opposed to contractors, they'll chase you down for years of back tax, interest, and penalties. So it's really key that you get that classification of worker correct from the get-go. And that's something, again, like I referred to earlier, Bryce can help you do compliantly. And the third point is underestimating payroll setup. So UK payroll isn't just a payment run. You've got PAYE, you've got national insurance contributions, we've got pensions, we've got real-time reporting to HMRC. So if you run your first payroll wrong, it's hard to win that employee trust back, point number one, because pay is really emotional as we know, but it'll also alert people like the HMRC to things you're not necessarily doing correctly. So it's really important you get some upfront advice. And again, that's something that Briars can help you do from when you're thinking about an idea, when you're thinking about expansion, and when you're thinking about moving into the UK. And finally, and I suppose wearing the HR hat on that I've got, is that skipping that HR advice. You see many of our clients, we have many conversations around companies just rolling out contracts and benefit packages that might necessarily work in other countries, for example, the US, or Singapore, or Dubai, or Australia, and just thinking that they can just do a quick lift and shift in the UK, but they're not competitive or compliant in the UK in most cases. So what we recommend is a HR audit, a quick local review of upfront saves, to try and figure out, okay, what works, what can we lift and shift, what do we need to tweak to make sure it's relevant in the UK, and that just saves a lot of pain down the line. So the big takeaway on this point is expanding into the UK isn't necessarily hard, but it is very well structured. So getting the setup, the payroll, the people, the processes right from day one is really important. It'll save you a lot of time and cost in the long run as well. So you've heard from me. I just want to do now a little bit of a segue into Gemma, who's going to talk you through some of the compliance and setup in the UK. Because once you've decided to hire and take that next step, in regards to expanding into the UK, you want to make sure your setup is compliant as it should be. There's a few layers to it, from company registration to tax filings, payroll, pensions, and data protection that we've touched on. And we don't want to get that wrong. So I'll hand you over to Gemma, who'll walk you through some of the exciting world of compliance and setup in the UK, and what you need to think about and do to make sure you've got things set up from day one, and how Briars makes that process seamless. Over to you, Gem.
Thank you, Phil, and welcome everyone. Lovely to see you. My name's Gemma. I've been with Briars now for almost 20 years, working as a qualified accountant, but to help our clients process their way through expansion into very many countries. But as you say, today we're focusing on the UK. Although we focused on the hiring to begin with, it's not just about that. If you think about when you're going on holiday and you're thinking of, what currency you might need, or what you need to pack, what voltage is the electric, all of those sorts of things. When you're expanding, you need to kind of consider the same. It's not always the same. So you don't know what you don't know before you do that. Think about the different authorities that you'll need to be contacting with when you set up an entity. It touches all of these different authorities, such as Companies House and HMRC. The ICO is more of the data protection side of things, although that's really key in the UK currently. And when we're talking about the employment rules and around what the taxation is, you've got all of these kind of nuances. They kind of crisscross when we're starting to do this. And there's a lot of deadlines to think about. When you're expanding into the UK, you don't necessarily know all of that. So actually making sure that you've got a trusted provider to actually work with you and make sure that you've got all of that compliance calendar in place. We've seen some horrendous fines where people have got this wrong, and obviously where they've had maybe a client waiting to contract and they can't because it's not actually quick enough. Getting that balance right of doing it just at the right time, not doing it too soon, because clearly a dormant company can cost from a compliance point of view too. So it's just making sure that you've actually done that pre-planning stage and think about exactly what you're going into. Next slide, please, Henry. So the real compliance risks of UK expansion. So when we're thinking about this, because of we're all used to our own jurisdictions, when we're trying to go into a new jurisdictions, you're not aware of the rules and regulations. Due to that, over 60% of new foreign entities have faced delays in doing this. They haven't thought necessarily about what directors they need to put in place, how the communications are going to happen, how are they going to get a bank account, for example? And all of that can actually compound into delays and facing penalties. With regards to penalties, we've mentioned 500,000 there. That's, they're quite sizable. The authorities in the UK are not forgiving, and will actually look at whether or not things have been deliberate or not deliberate, but they won't necessarily think about, well, you just didn't know. So making sure again that you've really planned what that structure looks like, and why you're actually looking to expand to the UK. When we're looking with regards to those specific contracts, you may have to have a VAT number. You may have to have an EORI number if you're importing or exporting. So those types of registrations can delay your day-to-day trade. So again, working back from where you might need to be and how you get there actually allows that whole timeline to be really planned, setting you up for full success. Um, and the reputational damage, I mean, Phill touched on, payroll is really emotive. You don't want to miss those payments. How do you make sure that that's all going to happen and all going to happen seamlessly? Can you get a bank account in order to do that? So those types of things can really affect how candidates see you, how your peers see you, and certainly how the competitors see you. If there's anything that's kind of out there that, you've not done something quite right, they're not very forgiving, really. And the true cost. So when we're thinking about it's not just the monetary side of things, it's the downtime, it's the lost contracts, it's all of those types of, unforeseen opportunity cost, really, that we're thinking about when we're talking about that true cost of not getting this right. Next slide. So, structuring your UK entity. We have seen many clients come to us with regards to, I want an entity. And that's great because that's clearly what they want. However, when we've deep dived into it, it's not necessarily exactly what they need right now. So we look at the fact that limited company, so it's got its own credibility, it's got its own legal structure, which is great in most cases, and the directors have that limited liability. One thing I will say though is that a lot of individuals that are put onto companies as directors don't fully understand what that means, and the responsibilities that come with that. I would strongly recommend that you, with anybody that's going to go onto the board, that they are actually briefed fully on those responsibilities and take them seriously. With regards to a branch, it's the easy option. You can set up, you don't actually need to have that full entity. But the one thing to note is the fact that your parent company accounts then have to be filed at Companies House, which means that they are then publicly available. Now, in some other jurisdictions, that won't bother you because they're already publicly available. But if you have certain registrations in other jurisdictions, that will actually be quite new for you. So from a company point of view, you need to think about what those implications mean. Is that the right thing that you want to be doing? And what does that actually mean for you when, they actually do become public uh, material, basically? And the employer of record, Phill mentioned the fact that actually we see this as a bit of a try before you buy. Um, Go in, try the jurisdiction, see if it's right for you. Have you got the right market? Have you found the right person? We've seen quite a lot of clients, possibly more so with COVID, but where they've come through and found the right person, or who they think is the right person, they've had to go into a particular jurisdiction, and then set up. That actually causes a bit more of an issue if that individual doesn't actually work out and you've suddenly got your entity set up, which comes with it a whole load of compliance costs. So actually doing the employer of record is great for just doing that test of the market. They are not your employees under that, so there is the cultural aspect to it, but certainly a great way of expanding into the UK market without necessarily triggering those compliance costs of having a full entity. The considerations, investors are key actually on this. So the investors are likely to have a clear target as to how they want you to be structured, and what they're expecting from that entity. So that might actually mean that you have to move a little bit quicker than you'd like to. But again, it's more about that planning and making sure that you're doing it with the right intentions. And the liability. So do you need funding? From the director's point of view, obviously they are responsible for the company, and that can actually click into where that funding comes from, and how quickly that can move. And the timeline, so with regards to setting up an entity in the UK, it's actually relatively quick. But with it comes that responsibility. So it really is worthwhile just taking that step back and thinking about what is your best trajectory, and how do you want to do this properly. With regards to annual compliance, that can change depending on your entity structure. And also bearing in mind that if you are a foreign parent company, by creating a UK entity, you may actually create an audit group. And that means that the UK company actually is subject to an audit, irrelevant of the size that it is. And auditors are worth their weight in gold, clearly, but that is not a cheap cost. So something, again, just to think about. Next slide. Okay, so the UK tax and accounting essentials. So this is just a little bit of a, bullet points of what to think about. So corporation tax rate is, the main rate is 25%. That differs from quite a lot of the rates around the same sort of jurisdiction. So if we think of Ireland, and that one is 19%. Your VAT, 20%, but you don't have to register until you go over the threshold of 90,000. When you are transfer pricing, or if you are going into transfer pricing, we would work with you on whether or not it's worth registering voluntarily, to begin with, so that you can reclaim some of that back. But there is that opportunity cost of the cost of actually doing those submissions, and whether or not what you're going to get back is going to be worth it. But we would work with you on that. The payroll taxes. So each of the employees have different tax thresholds, and it will be deemed on not just their employment income, but their personal outside of work incomes too. With regards to employers' national insurance, that's a monthly cost, and there is also a separate national insurance which is done on benefits that are provided. There are certain benefits that attract national insurance too. And we've also already mentioned the pension scheme. And worth noting with the pension schemes that you have to have an auto-enrolment scheme. If you've got an entity and you've got more than 5 employees, you have to actually have that entity there, the pension scheme there, ready for them to enrol in, even though they may opt out. So just another cost just to be aware of when you're doing that. With regards to the filing deadlines, this one throws everyone. It's slightly backwards. So we've got a corporation tax filing deadline of 12 months after your year end, but you have to make the payment within 9 months. It will always catch people out, and it doesn't necessarily make sense. So definitely one of those to be aware of. And then the financial year flexibility. So when you incorporate, it will Companies House give you a year end that can be changed, and it can be shortened or extended. And it depends really on what your plans are for that first year, whether you want to, if you've got investment coming through, or you've got plans that you might want to shorten it so that you've got a set of accounts already filed at Companies House to help you with those next stages, or whether you want to extend it and actually end up with a longer accounting period, so one set of compliance costs, and that actually makes things much easier for you. So it really is working through what works best for you and what your goals are, as to how we would actually work on that. Next slide, please. So common pitfalls to avoid. A little bit like the global employment laws, tax laws vary. And please don't ever assume that they are the same, because they're definitely not. With regards to delaying your company or PAYE registration, we would recommend that you do that as soon as you know that you're going to hire, because what you don't want to do is delay anything. The misunderstanding of UK payroll and pensions. So we have private pension schemes, and obviously auto-enrolment is now a key factor in the UK. And getting that right and making sure that your employees have access to it is the law, basically. So you must have those bits in part. And the coordination between your headquarters in the UK, we see quite a lot of misalignment. And it's not that you've got to provide the same things in the same jurisdictions, but it's more about thinking about what works in each of those jurisdictions and then tailoring it back, but trying to get that common theme throughout, but doing what works in those jurisdictions to make sure that that you're compliant, for one, but that you are attracting the right talent and that you are trading in the way that you really want to be doing. And ignoring data protection requirements. Data protection is a hot topic. And when we're seeing the rise in cybercrime, obviously our protection around our personal data is key. So falling foul of that is just not an option. And making sure that you've got everything in place to stop anything happening, or as mitigated as possible, because it will never be 100%. But aligning with those laws and ensuring that you are ticking each of those boxes as you need to make sure that you are entirely compliant in the UK. Next slide, please. So, top tips to make your UK expansion a success. So, we've said about planning, and I think that really is key. Think about what you're trying to achieve in each of your jurisdictions, really. But then when you're coming to the UK, what is it you want to do? And really think about that. And I do think, looking at that plan, what's going to work for you? Is it an entity? Is it a branch? Is it EOR? It's not a one size fits all. So really think about it. The contracts, policies and compliance, you will all have, if you've expanded previously, a bucket full of these. But actually making the time to go and get them sanitised and UK specific is well worth it. It's your protection at the end of the day, and making sure that that is all in place will stand you in great stead. And especially with regards to the candidates that you're trying to attract, and your clients too. I've mentioned that they're right structure already. Legal, HR and tax, I don't think any expansion should be done without prior thought and time in each of these areas. The people, all of that is just so important to the success of what you actually go into. Why would you spend money on doing the expansion if you're just not going to get the basics right? So they are the bits I think spend a bit more time on prior. And of course, strategic partners can help you do this. Briars can help you with each and every part of this. And as I say, we've had clients come to us saying, this is what I want to do. And actually, when we deep dive into it with them, it's not necessarily what they need to do right now. So working with them on what is right for them, and exactly what they want to achieve, and then winding it back, helping them out on every step. Next slide. I think this is our final one, actually. So just to recap, and feel free to jump in on this at any point.
I
So
could take this slide if you want me to.
you go
I'm
for it.
I'm engaged and ready. So I suppose this segues nicely from what you've just mentioned about getting that strategic partner right, isn't it, from day one? And I suppose that's where Briar's certainly comes in, doesn't it? So I think we shared this on on the earlier slide with the diagram with the circle and the four segments. If you recall, we've built that one partner model that lets you expand globally without losing local control. I think that's what it is, isn't it? Is in a nutshell, isn't it? So whether
It
you
is.
need whether or not you need us for setup, compliance, full scale outsourcing, we can flex around your needs. And if you're ready to open that UK entity, our corporate services team, HR team can handle everything from, like you said, Gemma, registration for company's house, the PAYE setup, the VAT, the tax filings, governance, and we can structure it all so that you can scale effectively from day one. And if you want to hire quickly as well, our employer of record service lets you do exactly that. You can employ people in the UK without setting necessarily up locally, and we can manage all the employment contracts, the handbooks, the payroll, the benefits, the compliance, so you can get the team you want on the ground quickly without that sort of delay or risk. And Jen, we're already having conversations about with it with potential new clients who are exploring growth into the UK as early as January 2026, and
Yeah.
that might only seem a couple of months away, but actually it's a it's a real achievable goal when you've got the right partner in place, isn't it? And then I
Yeah,
suppose
definitely.
behind the scenes, our accounting and tax specialists, which Gemma's just walked you through, can take care of all that sort of financial backbone, which is really important to get right from day one for the reasons that Gemma's obviously talked to her. And I suppose getting that strategic partner right, the ultimate end result is you get consistent processes and compliance across that sort of HR, payroll, accounting bucket. You get one team, one set of contacts, and that one standard of service. And everything we do, we have CX wrapped around it. We're super passionate about making sure that every single one of our clients have an amazing customer experience, but also enjoy what they're doing. Growing in the UK, isn't it? It's really exciting milestone, isn't it, for a lot of people? And we want to try and help you do that journey. So, yeah, I suppose that's what I wanted to just add really. Next slide, please. So I suppose that's the UK expansion in a nutshell, isn't it, Jem? So set up, hire, grow. And I think if I just reflect on my own experience of doing this for a number of different clients, the UK remains one of the most exciting markets in the world. You might say I'm
Definitely.
biased, but it's stable, it's skilled, globally connected. It's also where credibility meets opportunity as well. So I think success here isn't necessarily always about moving fast. It's about moving well, isn't it, and
It is.
compliantly.
Yeah, it's
So
that considered approach, I think. And that's what we can help with, because if you're expanding into UK and you've not done it before, you don't know. So that's what we're here for. Any
yeah,
questions with
and we do
regards
it every
to...
day, don't we, Jem? We do it
Absolutely.
every day. We're helping we're helping clients expand into new markets without the headaches. We take the headaches for you, and we'll guide you through some of the things that we've talked about. But I've really enjoyed this, Jem. Really insightful. Love the pieces that you've
Brilliant.
talked everyone through. So I suppose the last thing to say is, look, if anybody on the call is in their early planning stage, about to make their either first hire or have a presence in the UK and want to refine their structure, or at least have a conversation, then reach out to me and Jem. We would love to understand where you are in terms of your own personal journey and how we can help make that a little bit smoother along the way, compliantly, but ultimately
Yeah.
more successful for you.